Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Darkmoore, and today I have again the wonderful Jane Riley on with me, the mental health expert, which gave us a fantastic conversation last time about borderline personality disorder. Today, we are diving into the dark world of narcissism, both its pros, its cons, and questions relating to narcissism. So some people who follow me on social media have asked questions, of which I get to put to the lovely Jane. And if you do have any questions for any future interviews, which you'd like me to ask Jane, by all means, stick them in the comments and I can ask them if we hopefully speak again. So, Jane, could you please introduce yourself to our lovely viewers?
Okay. Hi, my name's Jane Riley. I'm a mental health nurse with 30 years experience. The majority of that time has been spent working with people with diagnoses of personality disorders, mainly women, most of whom had borderline diagnoses. But I have worked with some men with narcissism. And of course, you can have traits of any personality disorder, as I'm sure will come to light during this discussion. And we might all be a little bit surprised at just how narcissistic we all are. Yeah, that's me really.
So it's interesting what you said there because narcissism, it's been hijacked, I think. So narcissism in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's good to have a bit of narcissism, i.e., if you didn't have any kind of narcissism at all, you would give all your stuff away, you wouldn't look after yourself, and you would be very much a doormat because you wouldn't stand up for yourself. It's when that level of narcissism becomes quite neurotic and detrimental. I think it's when it can become disordered. So could you just explain to everybody what narcissism is, please?
So there are two diagnostic manuals. There's a DSM-5 and the ICD-10, both with pretty much the same kind of criteria for a diagnosis. And that will include somebody who has a huge sense of their own importance. I have made a few notes today, Jay, because I wanted to get all this right. So they think that the world revolves around them. They're superior to other people. They're very unkind. They've no empathy. They will use people, manipulate people for their own ends. They have a huge sense of entitlement. So will expect people to do things for them without any consideration about the impact or the cost to that other person because it's what they want, really. They're often preoccupied with things like power and beauty and success. And in the workplace, they can be very, very exploitative of other people. So you might find a work environment where a team of people are working on a project, and one of them is very strongly narcissistic. And so then, we've all done it, Jay. Then we go to present it to our bosses and say, look what we've done. And the narcissist will turn it around completely to be what they've done without any sense of shame or embarrassment whatsoever. And will take all the plaudits and just completely exploit everybody around them. They suck people in very easy. They're often very charming. And that's not a diagnostic criteria, that's just how they are. But if people want to have a look at the DSM-5 and the ICD-10, there was a bit of an argument when the DSM-5 was being reviewed in about, I think it was 2013, whether or not to remove it, because there's a lot of controversy about the disorder. I believe it is still there as a one of the 10 personality disorders, but I also absolutely know it's in the ICD-10. So in order to have a diagnosis of personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, which is not as probably common as we think, because we are going to see just how much we're all narcissists, people have to meet the criteria from the diagnostic and statistic manual. So it's really important that people have a look at that if they're interested. And so, yeah, moving on from that, I suppose. Ask me your next question, Jay, so that I can see where we're going with this and which avenue to go down.
So it's interesting what you say in regards to people taking all the credit, because I know one person in particular who a team went to him and they said, we would like to put this on the board or whatever. We would like to do this. And they changed one word in the criteria of it, and then it was their idea. They get all the credit for all the rest of it. This person is in senior leadership as well. So this person is dangerously, worryingly in charge of a lot of people. And I imagine, I mean, they say a lot of men are in high positions and they're in CEO positions. And I think a lot of that could be attributed to men being more prevalent in narcissism and psychopathy compared to women, certainly from the research I've looked at anyway. So they're more likely to step on other people, to crush other people, to take credit for things what they haven't done. So that could be an explanation as to why your big rich businessmen or your very high, powerful, successful people, a lot of politicians, I imagine, are quite narcissistic. With you saying about the criteria that you have to hit, do you have to hit all of them to be classed as a narcissist, or is there you have to hit 5 out of 10, or what is it?
Yeah, I think it's probably 5 out of, from my memory, 5 out of 9 criteria that you would have to meet. So you couldn't just hit 1 or 2, because that just makes you a normal human being, you know. And also those traits, I don't like to call them symptoms, those traits also have to heavily impact on your life. So on things like relationships, work, and that kind of stuff, so that they are a daily feature of the way that you operate and the way that you operate within the world. So it's not just saying, oh, like he's really arrogant or he's up himself, he's a narcissist. There is more to it than that from a clinical diagnosis. But in the real world, so there is a hint of narcissism in me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sat here doing this. Because I would be shying away from it and going, oh my God, no, I can't possibly do that. You know, when you do training, I've done a lot of training during my career. I like to stand up and talk in front of people. I enjoy it. That's a sense of kind of that need to be admired, which narcissists have, you know, which there is that in all of us. We want to be admired, we want to be applauded, we want to be told, well done, but in a much more bounded way maybe than a narcissist would. You know, I've never taken credit for anybody else's work. But I've always been very proud of my own work. And when I've presented stuff and people have said, well done, that was really good, that's a good feeling. So I think you were right in what you said earlier, Jay, about, you know, if you didn't have some traits of narcissism, you would end up being kind of somebody who would probably be a victim of a narcissist, actually. So you would be kind of quite weak and not able to stand up for yourself. And we've heard a lot recently about coercive and controlling behaviour. And I would bet that the people that are arrested and charged for that crime are probably at least with narcissistic traits, if not would meet the criteria for a full diagnosis, really.
Yeah, I've certainly seen that in my own experience as well. The more I've learned about it, the more I've experienced it, the more when I deal with people in that setting and I go, you are screaming a lot of traits to me. Obviously, I'm not a clinician, I can't diagnose someone, but you can say that this person would probably score quite high on the narcissism scale. And what I found a lot of the time is they deny what they've done. They either justify what they've done or they deny what they've done completely. Now, is that because in order for them to accept what they've done, that has to go against this sense of self that they have?
It goes against the fact that they have a lack of empathy. So if they admitted what they'd done, then the next step to admitting that you've hurt somebody is apologising, which they rarely do. Never do, because when they do apologise, it's with an ulterior motive. But in order to admit what they've done, they would have to demonstrate some kind of empathy, and that's saved for other things that they want to do to try and get their own way, to get their own gains. So yeah, it's part and parcel of keeping a term that you might read about is the narcissistic armor, and that's what they hold together. And you can damage the narcissistic armor with various phrases. One, for example, if you were in some kind of a relationship, or whether it's at work or a personal relationship with somebody with narcissistic traits, and you said to them, I don't really like you speaking to me like this, I'm going to end this conversation. Wow. You've just taken all the control back. You've made them angry. And that can often result, if they can't control their anger, that can result in assault or death. Because that person's armor, narcissistic armor, has been dented, and they don't know how to deal with that. So we all get our feelings hurt, don't we? People can say things to us, and it kind of crushes us a little bit, and we think, oh my word, that was really unkind, that's really hurt me, it's cut me to the core, and I feel really upset about it. But we process that and we do something with it, and we either say to the person that's hurt us, do you know, when you said that to me the other day, I felt really stung by it, can we talk about it? Or some people deal with it by going, that's it, I'm having little or nothing to do with that person anymore. We don't go into a massive big rage and then assault them or kill them. And that's the difference. So their narcissistic armor, when it's dented, kind of like the blue touch paper and stand well back, sometimes could be the outcome.
Absolutely. And they call that a narcissistic injury, don't they?
They do, yeah, exactly.
That person, and then they can fly into narcissistic rage, which of course,
right.
if you've ever experienced any kind of narcissistic rage, it can seem extremely disproportionate to what's actually happened. In regards to a narcissist, then, would a narcissist know they're a narcissist? Like, would they look at their behavior and go, there's actually something not okay with how I am, or there's something wrong with me?
No, the world centers around them. No, of course they won't. No, it's your fault. It's you. You have made me do this. So how many times in your experience have you heard somebody say, perhaps somebody's assaulted somebody, you made me do that? In that kind of coercive and controlling and domestic violence kind of scenario, where somebody's assaulted their partner, they will say to the partner, if you hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have done that. Which completely sanitizes their behavior and is a completely credible explanation. So their partner's on the floor bleeding and in a really bad way, but it's your fault because you did that or you said that. So no, the world revolves around them. Everybody else, there's a kind of quite a famous military kind of saying that my dad used to use quite a bit. Everybody else is out of step but me. And that was like those soldiers that couldn't march. That's what they used to say. It's everyone else that's out of step. But it kind of fits with that, the kind of narcissistic behavior and the way that they would operate. And let's not forget, they can be incredibly charming. And they can be incredibly flattering. And initially, if you speak to people, and I'm not going to keep saying men and women, but it is usually men and women. So if you speak to women that have been in a relationship with a narcissist, it comes as a massive shock because initially they are like the man they've always dreamed of. They bring them flowers, they say lovely things to them, they are kind and caring and considerate. And then perhaps sometimes unconsciously, they will commit that narcissistic injury towards their partner. And then they see what they get after that. And it's a very, very different person in front of them. And that's often the beginning, in my view, and it is just my view, but that's often the beginning of a domestic violence cycle.
Yeah.
Where everything's been fine and then it's gone off like a rocket.
Well, I mean, just speaking from personal experience, I was with someone for a little bit, and it was only a few months, but those few months I was mentally, I got very, very unwell as a result of that relationship. And what would happen was, it would initially start like, I can't believe I've met this person. This is the most incredible person. Where has this person been? We're always happy, we're always joyful, very intense, very quickly.
Mm.
Always wanted to be with you. And then the slightest thing, seemingly out of nowhere, an innocuous comment, something said out of turn, which to somebody who was, I don't know, atypical, like more emotionally aware or emotionally literate, they would have a conversation and
Mm.
go, I didn't like what you said then. Please don't say that again, or let's have a discussion about it. But this person would go insane. It would be like you would be sitting on the couch having a nice dinner or, watching TV, and within 5 minutes, screaming at you, packing all the stuff, leaving the house. And you just stood there like, wow, where did that?
What just happened?
But then you apologize, because then it comes to, well, if you didn't say this, I would have acted
Exactly.
like this. And the reason why our night got ruined was because of your behavior, not the fact that you're human and you might sometimes say something about out of turn, but because you said this thing, and that's why it gets to the point where, from what I've read and what I've seen and experiences, people start feeling like they're walking on eggshells all the time because they don't know what's
Yeah,
going to trigger this person into this kind of chaos. But that's, from what you're
yeah,
saying, is part of the control aspect, is that I want
yeah.
them on their best behavior at all times. Otherwise, they will be punished for what they've done. Um, so, so in a relationship, then, so can we talk about, if someone's in a relationship, how to identify the traits of someone with NPD?
It's really difficult because they'll suck you in. So there are often um, three elements to relationships. So your narcissist will idealize the person that they've just started a relationship with and make them feel really comfortable and really loved, and they will absolutely idolize them. And then, as you say, when things start to happen, then they'll start to devalue them,
Mm-hmm.
and they will start to blame them for everything, and everything they do is wrong. And that, quite often, if the other person isn't particularly emotionally robust themselves, they'll often start to believe that, and or second guess themselves or check themselves and think it must be me, it must be me. And then what can happen sometimes is that the narcissist might find somebody else who they think they can control better, or be, be in charge of more, or just be bored with the other person. So then they'll discard them. So
Mm-hmm.
there's the idealization, the devaluation, and then the discarding. Now, the person that's been discarded are often left in a heap on the floor, literally and figuratively,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't even know what happened to them. I think that it's usually, in my experience, when of working with women, that it would usually be, the women that I worked with were often um, had been abused for lots of years. So they would often fall for a narcissist and the kind and caring bit, and they wouldn't know what had happened to them because they didn't understand reciprocal roles, and they would then think that they were the ones that were at fault. And well, yeah, well, he did like his tea at 5:30, and sometimes it was 5:45, really.
Yeah.
But he was hungry and we'd been at work all day, really. And so then when they look back, what they said was it was other people that would call them out and say to them, "Do you let him speak to you like that? Well, you've got to go home and you've got to be at home at 6 o'clock because he wants you in the house at 6 o'clock, or you can't go out, you can't even go to your mum's. What's going on?" So it's often other people, because I suppose, like, if you're in a really happy relationship and you're in the thick of it, you don't really see what's going on, do you? Because you're in it, you're in the moment. And I guess it's very much the same there, when you're not really noticing what is going on and what is wrong. And then if you do, and you think, do you know what? We'll sit down tonight, and after we've had dinner, I will say, John, I just need to have a word with you because I think. And as soon as you start that conversation, John's gets a narcissistic injury and kicks off, and he's not listening to what you're saying because he won't be able to take that. That's a criticism, and you can't criticize me because the arrogance that I have makes me perfect.
Yeah.
So you're the one again that's in the wrong. So I would say in relationships, if you've got I'm sorry, I'm sat in the conservatory. I'm gonna have to move.
All right.
The
Go
sun's
on.
cracking the flags. If you're in a relationship and you are kind of reasonably emotionally robust, you will soon find that it's not worth demonstrating that or showing any part
Mm-hmm.
of it. And that's often why, as we know, women go back time after time, and men go back time after time after domestic violence,
Mm-hmm.
because their own self-worth is so low, because the narcissist will say, well, no one else will have you.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have me. I'm Mr. Super wonderful guy. They're often very grandiose, incredibly grandiose. You have some psychotic mental illnesses where there's a lot of grandiosity, like when people are really, really unwell with bipolar, for example. But a narcissist is equally as grandiose. So that phrase, if someone's been to Tenerife, he's been to 11 Reef.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty much like that, because they've always done it bigger, better, more risky, more productive, more successful than whatever you've done. So if you've had, open heart surgery, they've had it done on the kitchen table, that kind of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they've always got to be one better, and that's about their sense of self and their sense of self-worth as well, I guess. And that preoccupation with wanting to be admired. So if you said to me, I've had open heart surgery, I'd be going, oh my word, that's amazing. Like, I'm so interested in that. But then he would have to say, well, I've had it on the kitchen table, because it's got to be better than what you've
Yeah.
had. And it's that kind of, I've always got, in order to feel worthy, I've got to be one better than everybody, and that's part of their makeup, really.
Can somebody who's in a narcissistic abusive relationship, can they do well? I'll go to that point in a sec. It's what you were saying before about people returning to a relationship. I think on average it takes 34 instances of abuse before someone even calls the police once. And then
Yeah,
a cycle can happen of repeated calls out to the police before someone even makes a complaint. And then they might withdraw that complaint, and it can be a very long, messy, difficult process because, for want of a better term, somebody is under the spell of this person. Because
yeah,
with you saying that somebody gets their validation self-worth. If you have someone who doesn't have a lot of self-worth anyway, then all of a sudden they meet the love of their life in their eyes because of how much this person gives to them. And then they take that away. The person almost becomes almost like addicted to that they become codependent as well. So they
they
become,
do.
in a way, slightly narcissistic because they need that validation from the narcissist. So then when they take that away, you find that the target of the abuse will then start almost trying harder to get that back. And I think that's where they come up with the term breadcrumbing, because every now and then you'll have lots of abuse and then you'll get the person back who you had at the initial start. It's like that drug hit again, and then they withdraw it again, and then the
Yeah,
cycle continues, and
yeah.
thus the devaluation continues. Um, so, in respect of a narcissistic relationship, you said there's idealization, which is love bombing as well. That's another word for it, isn't it? I think some people can be a bit too wary of love bombing because sometimes they might just meet a very nice, caring person, and they can
Yeah.
confuse that with love bombing. Always buying me flowers, he's telling me look nice, is he a narcissist? But then I think it depends on the intent as well. So if the intent is I just really care about you and I love you and want us to spend time together, then that's fine. But if it's I'm doing this for a favor later on, or I'm doing this because later on you'll rely on this. Um, I imagine I think the question I wanted to ask you was in that early stage of the relationship and subsequent stages of the relationship with a narcissist, are they aware of the tactics they're doing? They're aware of what they are or what they're doing in respect of how they're acting.
There will be on one level, because they're after what they want. and they always want what they want, and they want people to behave in the way that they want. So they will be. So they will be enticing this person in to start this relationship. And of course, what they'll be feeling is also the idealization at the beginning, because this person will be reciprocating that and thinking that everything's okay. So absolutely, they will have a hidden agenda. Now, whether that is up there at the front of their mind, or it just sits somewhere at the back, because that's how they operate on a daily basis. Because let's not forget, it's not just romantic relationships, professional relationships, people at work can make other people's lives hell. If you've done that presentation and changed one word and it's mine, and I'm a really senior member of staff, you aren't going to say anything to anybody, are you?
You're not, are you? No.
You're not.
So
I've triumphed again, haven't I? I've got all this adulation from people above me who are now going to consider maybe it's time to promote me a bit more, because look what I've just produced. Yeah. Never mind about the minions that are sat in the staff canteen going, I can't believe what that bleep's done. But nobody will do anything about it. And it's that, it's in kind of every relationship. They're always looking for something for themselves, and it's that massive sense of entitlement. And we know we live in a world of entitlement now. Everybody's entitled, and it drives me absolutely insane. Yeah. But narcissists,
live in a world of adulation as well. Certainly, when you look at online, it's look out, look at me. I've got more likes than you. I've got more followers than you.
And that would feed a narcissist.
Do you think? I mean, we've only got a few minutes left, just because I've not paid for Skype Premium, so I'm a cheapskate. So do you think narcissism is more prevalent these days, or people are just more aware? Like, for example, do you think the term is more just misused now? They're a narcissist because they have a bit of an entitlement, or the narcissism actually people being clinically diagnosed or would be clinically diagnosed is on the rise?
I think it's probably a bit of both. I think that we're more aware, aren't we? We've got the internet and we can learn things and we can find things out. So people then start to say, oh, he's a narcissist. But, a true narcissist is somebody who's clinically diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder. Therapists can spot them at 100 yards. In the first session. They're very skilled at doing that. I think that we're more aware, but because of the coercive controlling law, I think we're more aware, and we're more aware of that phrase now. And I'm sorry to say that I spend a lot of my time watching crime things on telly, documentaries and stuff, and you'll often find that the person doing the speakover will say, and it was found that they had narcissistic traits and narcissistic tendencies. So I think it's a bit of both. I think one of the things I want to get across is that there's a bit of a narcissist in most of us. Whether it is standing up and presenting, whether it is doing really well at work, where there's an exam to be taken for promotion, and pushing yourself forward. We promote ourselves every time we go for a job interview. There's a little bit of a narcissist in there, because you are going to be arrogant about your skills. You are going to tell you're selling yourself because you want that job, the same as the other 5 people that have been for an interview. So we can use it, but I think we use it with boundaries. We know when we need to bring it out and when we need to put it away. And the difference is that we have empathy. And just before I go, I need to tell you a quick story about entitlement. So there was a young man in America. His parents bought him a brand new car every year for his birthday. And they were getting older, and they were living longer than they thought, and they were quite healthy. So they had to pull back a bit on the finances. So they told him that they would have to get him a second-hand car that year. It wouldn't be a brand new one. And he very calmly went over there and killed them both, because he was entitled to a new car every year. And his
Wow.
narcissistic injury was such that he was incandescent with rage. And he went and he calmly shot them both. And he was arrested and he's in prison. And
Jeez.
it's a true story. And he
Yeah,
just said, I was entitled to it because I had it every year. And of course, as parents, we can make narcissists, because we wrap them in cotton wool and we give them
of
everything.
course. Yeah, absolutely. You
We
get
don't let
entitled.
our kids fail anymore. We don't let our kids experience disappointment
Nope.
or rejection.
Nope.
It's all, I mean, I'm not a lover of Piers Morgan, but I get it when he says, why are you getting a medal for coming last when only the first
I
person?
agree. I agree.
Do you
You
know?
don't have to work hard if you get a
And
medal every time.
so we are, and that young man who killed his parents, when you looked at the history, he was an only child. He was born later in life to them. They tried for a long time. They wrapped him in cotton wool. If he said, can I have this? Of course you can. And you can have it in 3 different colours if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
So then that's how we start to nurture them, I'm sure if my son was listening to this, he would say, well, there's no chance of me being a narcissist mother because you were very strict. But he'll thank me one day, won't he?
I mean, people have good intentions when they're raising children, but at the same time, giving somebody, well, they call it spoiling the child, and they call it for a
Yeah.
reason. You're ruining the child. Just very in the last couple of minutes, I'd like to do a full interview on this topic. But if someone is in a relationship with a narcissist and they're watching this now, what advice could you give them? I appreciate it's
Wow.
only a couple of minutes, so just a very
I
quick snapshot if you can.
I would say to probably not challenge, to if you've recognized that this is a pattern of behavior, I would probably say not to challenge and to discreetly, when they're not around, to try and plan your escape,
Mhm.
because that's the only way that you're ever going to be safe. You're never going to be safe, and they will never change. And when they say they're sorry that they've been caught out. They're not sorry for what they've done. So
Yes.
I would say find someone you can trust, go and talk. I mean, if that involves going to the police, then do that, but have some support around you. Don't try and do it on your own, and don't feel bad, because actually when he says to you or she says to you, it's you, not me, it actually isn't. It is them.
Yeah.
Is
Um,
that okay?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. Um, it can be dangerous if you're in an abusive relationship, controlling relationship to try and leave that relationship. But there are avenues available. There's domestic violence workers. There's independent domestic violence workers. There's
Absolutely.
police. There's the courts. There's have faith in the system. Have faith in the police. Police absolutely try the best, and you will never change a narcissist. They will never accept responsibility, or if they do, it was your fault, or if they say they will change, it's a way to keep you in that relationship.
It
A
is.
narcissist might say, I will go
Absolutely.
to therapy, I will change, don't leave. And 6 months down the line, they've still not gone to therapy and you are still on this cycle of abuse. So that's just one little closing comment. Jane, again, great discussion. I wish it could be longer. I'll have to upgrade to Skype Pro so that we can do a longer one, because again, I could pick your brains about this stuff all day. And I know from the video borderline personality disorder, which we did, people quite enjoyed that. So
Good.
absolutely fantastic. You should definitely get on TikTok, or you should definitely get on something like that and talk about this, because people will lap it up. People love talking about conversation like this, and it's very pertinent in the social sphere right now. So, yeah, thank you everyone for watching. If you want to see more conversations with me and Jane, if you want to ask Jane some more questions for the next video, or if you have a topic you want us to cover, Jane's very expertise. She's very good at what she does. She's very knowledgeable. Do us a favor. If you subscribe, it helps the channel. If you like and comment and share, it helps the channel. So if you want to see more great conversation like this with Jane, you want to see more of my ugly mug, then do you help the channel and subscribe. Jane, it's been a pleasure. I will speak
Thank
to you
you.
again very soon.
Can I just make it clear as well, as I did last time? These are a lot of my views, my opinions and stuff, but based on 30 years of mental health nursing.
That's great. Speak to you later.
Thank you. Bye, love. Bye.
Bye.